This is our third lecture on the poem King Porus, A Legend of Past. We have been talking about this poem and we have been talking about King Porus, we had been talking about Alexander, and we had been talking about Michael Madhusudan Dutt, who has written this poem. Now, as the title suggests, you already know by now that this poem is about the legendary king, King Porus of India. And this poem is about the war which had taken place between King Porus and Alexander. Now, we move to the parts which we could not cover in our first two lectures. O earth, on that bright morn, what thousands render to thee the dust they owe. Now, Michael Madhusudan Dutt is building a story about King Porus. He's talking about King Porus. He's talking about the greatness of King Porus. He's talking about the courage of King Porus. And at the same point of time, he's talking about Alexander, who is a great warrior and who had come with a mission to invade the entire world. Now, he's built up an atmosphere where he's talking about that India and its rulers, they do not know what who would strike them stealthily, or that an enemy is approaching. They are all living peacefully and they are unaware of the fact that there is an enemy, and the enemy has been compared to volcano, enemy has been compared to earthquake, enemy has been compared to a tiger, a lion. So in this way, you could see that Michael Madhusudan Dutt is somewhere he is asking the Indian rulers to be aware of the danger. Now, as the poem moves, he says, O earth, on that bright morn, what thousands render to thee the dust they owed. Now he's talking about the soldiers, and he's talking about the day of the war between King Porus and Alexander, and he says thousands of people, thousands of soldiers, they met their fate in the dust. But before the Macedonians driven fell India's hardy sons. Now people who had come from foreign land, and they had to fight with Indian soldiers who were also very courageous, and they were hardy sons, proud mountain oaks by thousand thunder riven. Now they were like mountain oaks who are very proud, who stand straight even during thunders, that for their country's freedom bled. And these soldiers, they fought war for the freedom of their country, and they gave their blood for the freedom of their country and made on go their glorious bed. And now they gave up their life in the war field, in the battlefield, and that was their glorious bed. That was their bed which they had chosen, because they were people who had a lot of self-respect and respect for their own country and respect for the freedom of their motherland. But dauntlessly there stood King Porus, towering midst the foe. And King Porus was standing there dauntlessly, very courageously, without any fear. King Porus was standing there, King Porus towering midst the foe. And King Porus was towering. He was so he looked so tall with his courage that amidst the foe, amidst the enemy and his entire army, King Porus looked someone which was towering them, and like a Himalaya peak. And now there is a simile. King Porus, his mighty stature or his very presence in the war was like the peak of Himalaya mountain, standing straight and visible to everyone, with its eternal crown of snow. Now Himalaya is most of the time covered with snow. So its snow has been compared to eternal crown which is there, which lies on the head of the kings. So this eternal crown, King Porus would always wear a crown which is eternal. So he would always maintain his respect. He would be always independent, and on his brow did shine the jewel regal diadem, and he was full of symbols which which are associated with a regal king. His milk white elephant was decked with many a brilliant gem. Now this is typical picture of an Indian army, and this poem has been written long back. So it appears as if Michael Madhusudan Dutt has been has a very closer view of India, which was there under British rule, but he is talking of India. Now he's talking of ancient India. He's talking about King Porus. But somewhere we come to know that the pang of being subjugated by a foreign rule is there, and this pang is very much visible in the poem, which is of King Porus and which is of Alexander. But there is an Indian ruler, there is a land of India, and there is a foreign ruler who wants to subjugate. So the same pang we could see in Michael Madhusudan Dutt when Britishers subjugated India, and when he talks of King Porus towering midst the foe like a Himalaya peak with its eternal crown of snow, on his brow did shine the jewelled regal diadem, his milk white elephant was decked with many a brilliant gem. It appears he's talking about the Indian rulers who had been subjugated by the British rulers. But this is the story of King Porus, and King Porus is also fighting with a foreign rule, and King Porus is decked up with all the regularies associated with the Indian kings, and this white elephant which is there, which is decked. The elephant itself is decked with brilliant gems. Now, this is how you could see that how rich India was, how prosperous India was, and this was also one of the reasons why foreign rulers invaded India, because they wanted to plunder the wealth of India. So even an elephant has been decked with gems. He recked not of the phalanx that round him closed, but nobly fought, and like the angry winds that blow, and lofty mountain pines lay low. Now he's the phalanx is a group or team of army which is there to wreck him, that round him closed, and they are covering him. But he fought nobly, he fought like a great warrior. He fought nobly means like a great warrior. He does not want to stoop, or he does not stoop even when there is a great army of Alexander there. And like the angry winds that blow, and lofty mountain spines lay low, amidst them dreadful havoc wrought. And like the angry winds that blow, and the winds which are blowing are angry, and in the same way the army which is trying to cover Porus, that army is also very angry. And lofty mountain pines lay low, and in such angry winds, or in such storms, what happens, even pines which are lofty, the pine tree which is very lofty, but it has to somewhere lay low. It is also struck by the storms. Amidst them dreadful havoc wrought, and thinned his crown and country's foe. And this is how that there was an atmosphere of havoc, there was an atmosphere of large scale destruction by Alexander, and under these circumstances there was a lot of dread, and under this dreadful atmosphere, what happens is that even the greatest of crown, they are thinned, and country's foe. And what happens is, country's foe, who is country's foe here, who is country's foe, who is country's enemy here? Country's enemy is Alexander here. And what happens is, when one comes face to face with such an enemy, what happens is, even when you are a great soldier, you are a great warrior, and you are fighting very bravely, but what happens, somewhere you are subjugated, somewhere you are put under a foreign rule, or you are put under a power which is beyond your control. The hardiest warriors at his deeds, awestruck, quailed like wind-shaken reads. Now, even the greatest of warriors would not could not stand the bravery of King Porus, and they would shake before him. But King Porus had to fight such a war, which he fought bravely, but he did not have much of the facilities, or much of the manpower, or much of the techniques which were available to Alexander. So somewhere he had to give up, or maybe he did not give up, but his army gave up. Thank you.